Jayam Vishnu Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Shukra Shishimade Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam in the second canto, which is entitled The Cosmic Manifestation. 7th chapter entitled Scheduled Incarnations, and we're on text 40, right? Vishnor Virya Dhananam Katamoratiha Ya Parthivanya Pikavirva Mamera Jamsi Chaskambaya Swaraha Sakalata Triprishtam Yasmat Trisamya Sadhanat Urukam Payanam
Yasmat Trisamya Sadhanat Urukam Payanam
Vishnor Nuvirya Gananam Katamohatiha
Vishnor Nuvirya Gananam Katamohatiha
Ya Parthivanya Pikavir Vimamera Jamsi
Ya Parthivanya Pikavir
Chaskambaya Svaraha Saskalata Triprishtam Yasmat Trisamya Sadhana Urukam Payanam
Yasmat Trisamya Sadhana Urukam Payanam.
Would any one of you like to chant? Vishnu Nuvirya Gananam Katamohatiha Yapadivanyati kavir vimamera jansi. Chaskambaya svadhasa kalata triprishtam. Yasmatrisam yasadana gurukam payanam. Vishnu virya dhanam katamorhati. Yapadivanyati kavir vimamera jansi. Chaskambaya svadhasa kalata prishtam. Yasmatrisam yasadana gurukam payanam. Vishnu virya dhanam katamorhati. Yapadivanya kavir vimamera jansi. Chaskambaya svadhasa kalata triprishtam. Yasmatrisam yasadana gurukam payanam. Vishnu virya dhanam katamorhatiha. Yapadivanyati kavir vimamera jansi. Chaskambaya svadhasa kalata triprishtam. Yasmatrisam yasadana gurukam payanam. Vishnu of Lord Vishnu knew but virya prowess gananam in the matter of accounting katamaha. Who else? Arhati is able to do it. Iha in this world. Yaha one who. Partivani the atoms. Api also. Kavihi great scientists. Vimame might have counted. Rajansi particles. Chaskambha could catch. Yaha one who. Svarahasa by his own leg. Askalata without being hampered. Triprishtam the topmost planetary space. Yasmat by which Trisamya the neutral state of the three modes. Sadanat up to that place. Urukampayanam moving very greatly. Translation. Who can describe completely the prowess of Vishnu? Even the scientist who might have counted the particles of atoms of the universe cannot do so. Because it is he only who, in his form of Trivikrama, moved his leg effortlessly beyond the topmost planet, Satyaloka, up to the neutral state of the three modes of material nature, and all were moved. Purport. The highest scientific advancement of the material scientists is atomic energy. But the material scientist is not able to have an estimation of the particles of atoms contained in the whole universe. But even if one is able to count such atomic particles or is able to roll up the sky like one's bedding, even then, one is unable to estimate the extent of the prowess and energy of the Supreme Lord. He is known as Trivikrama because once, in its incarnation of Vamana, he expanded his leg beyond the highest planetary system, Satyaloka, and reached the neutral state of the modes of nature called the covering of the material world. There are 7 layers of material coverings over the material sky, and the Lord could penetrate even those coverings. With his stele, he made a hole through which the water of the causal ocean filters into the material sky, and the current is known as the sacred Ganges, which purifies the planets of the 3 worlds. In other words, no one's equal to the transcendently powerful Vishnu. He is omnipotent, and no one's equal to or greater than him. Om Jnanamirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukam karati vachalam pangulangate kirim yat kripatamaham bhande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitana pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. So, this morning for discussion, we have yet another interesting thing. So does anyone remember what we just read, at least in the verse? Anything?
All right.
No cheat sheets. I'm just yes, sir.
Lord's activities are and his powers are propellant.
That Krishna's prowess, his activities, his qualities are ultimately incomprehensible. They're so great. The difference between the living entity and God is so great. Okay? Anything else? Maybe?
Appearance of Ganges.
Yes, appearance of Ganges. That's Lord Trivikrama pierced with his foot, making the second step, pierced the covering of the universe. Now, according to the Vedic account of it, those layers are each following layer is 10 times thicker or wider than the previous one. I don't know if you can even imagine that. Even if you started with 1 inch times 10, it's 10 inches times 10, and then times 10, and you end up with a humongous number after 10 times 10. Yeah, just starting with 1 inch, you end up with a tremendous distance. Let alone here. So these coverings are really I mean, if I got the math right, the universe is more like a little tiny pea inside a humongous, giant, super thick covering. Usually we have pictures of a universe with a thin cover, but no, the cover is actually way, way larger than the universe itself. I'm not sure about you, but at least for myself, there was a time in my spiritual development, in my growth as a conscious being, I did not want to merely accept something for the sake of convenience, which is often what people do. People are creatures of convenience. We do things because they're convenient. Not only that we do things because they're convenient, but we actually come to believe things because they're convenient. Even though they may not be true. And even though sometimes people see that their thinking is inconsistent, but because it is convenient, they will accept it. So I did not want to be a creature of convenience. And in one point, I needed to challenge everything I thought I knew in Krishna consciousness. Challenge in a healthy manner, not arrogantly, but I felt a need to challenge. But you not do that. Shanti, shanti. Not for the mere sake of challenge or because of arrogance, but because of the need to, as rationally as possible, to account for my beliefs or the beliefs that I have somehow adopted. And then, of course, more rational of a being we are in our journey through existence, we do come to accept, believe things because they make sense to us. But there's also a great deal of acceptance of belief on the basis of comfort, convenience. And so I started to read Srila Prabhupada's books with this question in mind. And so many things came up, many questions. Like this is one of the typical questions, like how do you even, why would you accept the existence of God? Why would you accept the existence of God? And especially such an amazing being from whom everything comes, and that being is so great that we cannot even begin to compare ourselves to him. Why would someone accept such a being? So I don't know about you, but I have my reasons. I have my reasons, and these reasons dictate to me full freedom to accept the existence of the Supreme Personality of God, and not only that, but to dedicate my life to the teachings and mold my life according to the teachings of the Supreme Personality of God, specifically as given in the Vedic literature. Now, many would say that, and I'm talking about Vaishnavas, and specifically Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they would say, well, I accept it because it says in the book. Or why do you accept it? Because it's in the book. That's a question to you. Why would you accept statements of a book? Yeah, but how do you know? How do you know that the information is authentic? I mean, there is a tendency when something is written, then people, it's written in a book. It's an authoritative source. But why would you accept something that's written in a book?
Well, people who I can trust.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. Because you see, faith or shraddha grows in everyone. And it grows for varieties of reasons. So we all believe stuff. but still the question is why. The question is of the quality of our belief. How did we come to formulate such beliefs? And so throughout history, many people have asked themselves this question. Because somehow or other, like for example, the other night we were talking about the Bible. No one really knows, not really, but no one absolutely. There's not a person in this world that knows the origin of the book. I mean, there's some guessing on the basis of the book itself, when the book might have been composed or manifested, etc., etc. Or the Vedas. According to the Vedas themselves, etc., etc., it looks like they've been around for a very long time. And so here we are. We find ourselves today in Phoenix. And there is a book that talks about God. And there are people who talk about it. It seems like there was no beginning to the religion. It almost seems like there was religion and then there were people. And so here we are. We're being presented with a religious idea. And so now we can rightly ask ourselves, well, what's the merit of these ideas? What is the merit of these ideas? And so we approach to these ideas for varieties of reasons, as Krishna actually points out in the Bhagavad Gita. Some people are just plain miserable, and they need a transcendental alternative. Some people are curious, some people actually want something from God, and other people want knowledge. In other words, it is plausible to them that this gives some information. At least for myself, I remember as I turned 19, and I was thinking, for God's sake, I'm already 19. If you think, time goes by real fast. And I was thinking, I'm already 19. If my life continues to unfold this fast, and if I continue to learn so slow about what the goal of life is, will I ever find out what the goal of life is? And then let's say if I even find out what the goal of life is, will I have enough time to realize the goal of life? To realize the goal means to make real. In other words, enough time for practice and, make it real for me. Have enough time to adjust myself, mold myself to the goal of life. And then at that point, I had to seek for ready-made packages. Instead of me trying to figure it out all on my own, I absolutely had to seek ready-made packages. Then what's your package? What does your package say? Okay, I checked it out. What does your package say? And in this way, I started to investigate different packages. And what's interesting, one of the packages I looked at was atheism. But atheism, first of all, to me, it was atheism to me was impossible. Why would atheism be impossible? Like agnosticism is possible, but atheism to me is impossible. It's an impossible idea in the sense that there is some terrible inconsistency there. I don't know if any one of you thought about this, but one terrible inconsistency about atheism is that in order to make the claim that there is no God, you ought to have experienced everything. If you have not had experience of everything, that one thing or those many things which you have not experienced might be God. So in order to make the claim there is no God, like some militant American and European atheists do, in order to make that claim honestly, they would have had to experience everything. Because if there is even one thing that they did not experience, that one thing might be God. So atheism, to me, immediately did not make any sense. Agnosticism, yes. Where you just say, I don't know. It's a very honest position. But to make a militant, definitive claim, there is no God, there is no soul, there is no spiritual dimension, it's just impossible, because we all, I mean, I have not experienced Phoenix ever before in my life until I have come here on this trip. And there's so many other things that I have not experienced. What to speak of ideas, of abstract things such as ideas. So atheism did not make sense. And the other thing about atheism is that it does not really answer anything. It just says there is nothing. Well, you did not help at all. Here you have a planet full of beings who need purpose, who need value. What do you call a thing without purpose and value? And you all have it. Junk, yes. Thank you. Garbage. So if we, or everything else, but let's start with ourselves. If we have no value and no purpose, then we're just junk. Universal junk. Well, that's not much of an answer. You ask a question, what's the purpose of life? Why is it all, what's the purpose of it all? They say there is no purpose. There's just no answer. There's just a lazy man's way out. So it gave no answer, gave no solace. I had to be abandoned. Now the other thing is that in the Bhagavad Gita, what's that, Adbhuta Yoga? How did Srila Prabhupada translate that? Where Krishna speaks to Arjuna about his grandiose self. Adbhuta Yoga. It doesn't matter. Krishna makes a claim, and it's a rational claim. It just, how can you fail to see the sense in it? And the claim is that I know everyone, but me no one quite knows. Why? Because I'm the origin of everything. Because I'm the origin of everything. And so now we have humans who claim that that which is out of the purview of their experience does not exist. This is very arrogant. In other words, if something is out of the purview of your experience, it does not exist? No, it's just out of your sight. It's out of your grasp. Another claim which materialists indirectly make by stating that it's real only that which we can experience, which we can manipulate, control, and make experiments on, is that you have the power to control everything. Because unless you had the power to control everything, you could not subjugate it to your experiment. What if the thing is so big and so mighty that it refuses to subjugate itself to your experimentation? And so to think like this and then say there is no God, it's terribly inconsistent. You'd be better off by just saying, I'm an agnostic, I don't know. It seems maybe, but you cannot say you know. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Yes or no? Yes. This is a mathematical statement. So to say there is no God or there is God, this is a religious statement. So in order for you to be able to tell whether 2 plus 2 equals 4, you need to know math. And to make a claim that God exists or doesn't exist means you ought to know religion. That you have actually studied religion. But if God exists in such a way that you cannot subject this being to your experiment, then all that's left to you is what not only Vedic tradition, but many traditions say, that you ought to subjugate yourself to this being, because that is the process that the being is telling you. If you subjugate yourself to that process, you will come to know it. And this is what Krishna says. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Only by bhakti you can come to know me. And so if you have not made this experiment, you cannot make the claim Krishna does not exist. I guess I'll say. The other day I spoke of it, but I didn't really title it. I presented an argument in due course. I think it was the first Bhagavatam class I gave here. I mentioned it. I referred to the moral argument. It's an argument for the existence of God, which Srila Prabhupada also uses in his writings. So I will not refer to it again, but I will refer to another argument which flies in the face of atheists, and this is known as the argument from cosmology. Argument from cosmology, and this argument started long time ago. At least according to the European and then later on American account. It started with the Greeks, that's how far back they can trace it. But of course this is a civilization that has no information of older civilizations such as the Vedic, etc. But it is an interesting thing. Yet again, it points out the deficiencies in the atheistic claim. The cosmological argument started with Aristotle, as far as we can trace it back, and it's an argument of contingency. You know what contingency is? It's an English word. Correct. It's based on, depends on, it's linked to a thing before. So contingency. Yeah, that's enough. And if we examine this world, everything depends on something. Everything depends on something. And yet in the beginning, and we don't say this, Vaishnavas don't say this, but the atheists say that there was a time when there was nothing. That there was a time when there was nothing. And so Parmenides, a Greek philosopher, he pointed out, well, how can something come out of nothing? That's one thing. How can something come out of nothing? Can you even imagine nothing? And then he said, if nothing existed, it would be something. You follow? First problem is that something does not come out of nothing. Something comes out of something. And if something came out of nothing, then nothing would exist. And if nothing existed, it would be something. I know it's a lot of words, but you follow? Did you follow that? So therefore, in the beginning, there had to be a transcendental being or something that's not contingent upon its existence on anything. And this is the picture that we get in the Vedic literature. That Krishna, unlike us, is an independent being. And from this independent being, things come. And so when it comes to the descriptions of the qualities and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if we have the tendency to disbelieve them, we should be at least honest and say, I don't know. Instead of making a claim, that's so far out, man, there's no way I can believe that. I mean, there was a time when people did not believe in television. There was a time when people could not have imagined television, let alone cell phones. So just the fact that something exceeds our imaginative power does not mean that therefore that thing does not exist immediately. This is not necessarily an argument for the existence of God, but it points out the terrible deficiency in the atheistic attitude. That in the right state of mind, we cannot be an atheist. At best, we can be agnostic. Ajnana. I do not know. There may be, may not be, I just don't know. And I remember first having grown up in a Catholic environment. First when I came up upon a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, I actually managed to acquire it. And I was reading, and I have to tell you, I mean, I never heard of a four-headed being, Mr. Brahma. I cannot even begin to tell you how far out that was for me. You know, Western-born Catholic, from a Catholic background boy, four-headed, that's too far out. But again, at the same time, I could not have been so audacious and so sentimental to reject it. The best position I was able to take was that I don't know. There may or may not be such a creature, but I cannot definitely say, no, certainly such a creature does not exist. So with this kind of attitude, I continued to read Srila Prabhupada's books. And there was enough in them to keep my attention, to keep my interest, and there was plenty of answers to my questions. Another really big problem with atheism is that atheism is literally suicidal. In San Diego, there's a big bridge over to the island of Coronado. So the bridge is called Coronado Bridge. Anyone been on that bridge, maybe? You have? It's pretty high. It's really, really high. Because humongous boats go under the bridge. Army boats and pleasure boats and cruisers and all. So it's really, really, really high. One of the higher bridges ever been on. Have you, you can't walk on it, so you must have driven over it. Did you notice some, what do you call them? Notes engraved on metal plates on the bridge with a message. There's like every 50 feet there is one of them on each side. It's a toll-free number. Yes, you saw that. Did you see how many of them are there? Like every 50 feet, like really so many. Because so many people jumped off of the bridge. But if atheism is reality, why do they bother? Prabhupada gives this argument in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. If atheism is reality, why do they lament over a loss of life? It's just a bunch of chemicals. Like in a laboratory, Prabhupada, if we're just a pile of chemicals, like in a laboratory, when the chemicals spill on the floor, people don't have funerals and cry and go nuts over the mice of a pile of chemicals. So if atheism is a real thing, then why do they attempt to prevent people from committing suicide? I mean, some people go to disco. Actually, I'm really from the 80s. Discotheques probably don't even exist anymore. Nightclubs, what do they call these days, whatever. Some people go to nightclubs and some people jump over bridges. I mean, whatever pleases you, man. But yet, so that's one terrible inconsistency. And so when religion comes and offers a possibility of survival, because that's what religion does. It gives you a possibility of survival. It tells you you're not going to die when the body is going to die. And you can literally make real your eternal existence. Because right now, in our physical existence, our eternal existence has not been quite realized. We're being subjected to constant recycling program. So it's not quite eternal life. It is, we do exist, but we're being recycled all the time, taking birth and dying all the time. But one can make real one's eternal nature, eternality. That's what religion offers. And these people are so committed, without any good arguments, so committed to death and dying, and eternally so. This is not healthy, just as they think it's unhealthy for people to commit suicide. And yet these very same people are philosophically completely committed to committing suicide. You offer them a possibility. Look, you could survive. They said, no, I'm going to die. Why? Because, but you could live, you could survive. No, I'm going to die, and you're going to die. We're all going to die. All right. This is atheism. It's just militant, suicidal movement. If people are stranded on an island or in a mountain, a plane crashed or something, naturally they're going to try to survive. Why do these people don't want to survive? To me, it seems to indicate not a philosophical problem, but an emotional one. And so, therefore, religion is a great possibility. It's a great possibility, and it's a great alternative. If it's not true, we're in the same boat with atheists, no better, no worse. And if it is true, then we're way better off. So it's a simple equation that should get people interested in religion. By the way, I was reading not too long ago that religious people tend to live longer and be happier and even wealthier in America. Just so you know. Which is another reason, a very materialistic one, to be interested in religion. I hope that's not the reason for which any one of you would take to religion, but anyhow, it's there too. And again, it flies into the face of atheism. Because even for materialistic reasons, it's better to be religious. So yes, we have no other option than to accept the packages, study the package, and if it appeals to us rationally, to whatever extent our rationality can go, then we should go with it. And that's the beauty of Krishna's arguments, right? After speaking to Arjuna, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells him, I have told you all of this, you'd be best off accepting this, but now you do as you wish. Now you do as you wish. So Krishna is not demanding anything, he's presenting arguments as rationally as this could be explained, as our comprehension allows. Oh, I was going to mention that and I forgot. Prabhupada gave that argument of Dr. Frog, or the philosopher Frog, sitting in one's own little well, and then a frog that has seen an ocean jumps into the well and tells the first frog that has never left the well about a humongous body of water, and the first frog just cannot comprehend it. It's just so vast, cannot comprehend it. But that does not mean that the ocean, therefore, absolutely cannot exist because a little frog cannot conceive of it. This is no proof of the existence of the ocean, but it's definitely proof that atheism makes no sense. It has no rational basis. So, Om Tat Sat. Are there any questions or comments, perhaps? Yes.
It makes reference to these 7 layers of material existence, and that the Lord can penetrate even those colors of the material sky. Now, the Bible talks about the 7 heavens.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be the same thing? Would there maybe possibly in the Christian religion a heaven on each one of those layers, which would be equal to the Krishna consciousness talking about us going to different planets?
I read the Bible when I was a teenager. And then several years ago, I read it again. And then I studied it on my own. And then I took an academic course taught by a practitioner, a believer, a person who lives by the Bible. So academic who lives by the, I took that course that lasted months. And then I had some questions. And then I went to a Catholic community where I sought Bible apologetic. You know what apologetic is? Apologetic is a technical academic term for a work that comes in defense of another work. So Bible apologetic is a work that comes in defense of the Bible. In other words, if there are people who have questions about the Bible, there are other people who will come in defense of it by trying to respond to those questions. And so I did that. And so I think I have my opinion of the Bible is well formed. It's not an uninformed opinion. I mean, I did way more than most Christians do, certainly my family. So, in due course of my studies of the Bible, it became clear to me that there are a great many problems with the Bible. Not the Bible itself, but connecting the Bible with many of the present-day Christians. Because there are tremendous leaps of, not faith, but just leaps, like that one, for example. There's a mention of that, and for me to make connection of that with the 7 layers over here would be a tremendous leap. And this is what people do. And I'm not saying it's good. As a matter of fact, Srila Prabhupada discouraged it greatly. Making these kind of leaps, because at the end you create a picture that's based off of something, but it was all done by tremendous leaps. And so then you can rightly ask yourself, how did you arrive to? I mean, what's the real value of what you have arrived at if you had to make all those tremendous leaps? And so, for example, I mean, there's so many interpretations of the Bible and biblical teachings, and people, traditions have arose, but all of a person who has studied the Bible can rightfully ask, how did you guys arrive at that? And very often you will find leaps, but what I'm trying to say is that they ought to be understood for what they are, interpretations of the Bible. Now, the question is whether those interpretations are good or not, consistent or not. That's something that we would have to, in order to answer that question, would have to dive deep into these traditions and their interpretations of the Bible. And the same thing goes on with any tradition. You have a source, and then you have interpretation of the source. As a matter of fact, even now, as I speak to you, all of you are interpreting. You cannot fail to interpret. Like, you're interpreting every word, even this word, interpret. What does interpret mean? Yes. Do you know the meaning of the word interpret?
Some logic or some.
Say that again?
Something, giving logic.
No. Well, in some ways it involves logic. But to interpret, what does the interpret mean? The word interpretation. The activity of interpreting.
Try to explain things according to your previous experience with that particular.
Okay. That's good. I'll hold on to it. Yes. You were going to say.
To try to attain the meaning.
That's very close. Two of you are very close. To interpret means to give meaning, to comprehend, to give meaning. For example, if you're in a foreign country, you can ask for an interpreter. Interpreter is not someone who's going to speculate on the words you're telling him. No, that's a person who's going to translate your words. That's the meaning of the word interpret. So we're interpreting at all times. Like, if I use the word interpret, in your minds, that's translating in something. You're interpreting even the word interpret. When you read Prabhupada's books, you're interpreting, trying to make sense of it. What does this mean? If you hear the sound vibration, house, you're interpreting. What does that mean? So we cannot fail to interpret. The only question is, what is the right interpretation? And so every sophisticated system, tradition, has a system in place that makes this interpretation process as possible foolproof. And so Srila Prabhupada often said, don't interpret, meaning don't speculate, because interpret is not, that's a bit imprecise use of the word interpret. But don't speculate. Don't make these leaps of, that's why it'd be very dishonest of me to give it some kind of interpretation when there is not enough of.
Okay, well then would you just talk to me about the 7 layers? At death, are these 7 layers of the material in the material sky equal to the positions we go to, our souls go to, in reference to in Krishna consciousness when we talk about planets? You know, when you
No.
die, you go to different planets. Would this be the same thing? When you die, you go to different layers?
No. Now these layers are outside of the universe. Each universe is one self-contained unit within which there are the heavenly planets, the middle planets, the lower planets, and all of the planets in between. So all the planetary systems are within one universe. And then the universe is coated with these layers.
So it's in the spiritual universe.
No.
No, it can't be because this is material.
So, according to the picture we get from the Bhagavatam and the other Puranas, is that there's the spiritual creation, and in the spiritual creation there's one little corner which is, there is no corner, but sort of like a corner, which is known as the material section, physical section. In that material wall, Krishna first comes and then manifests as three Vishnus, and through these three Vishnus, all of the universes come into being. From Mahavishnu comes a universe, and then within each universe there is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, from whose navel a big plant sprouts out, on top of which is Brahma, and then Brahma creates the universe, does his magic mixing of subtle elements from which gross elements manifest, etc., etc. Like that. So that's the big.
Oh, well, you
Yeah.
answered my question, and it's not relevant to the seven heavens. And you answered my question, you clarified that the seven layers in the material sky are not the same as the planets that we go to as souls.
Oh, good. Then we made it. Success.
We made it in a roundabout way, we made it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Oops, we're a little over time. All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Swami Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Prabhupada